Last week, we talked about dealing with anxiety and we're returning to the workplace. And one of the tips that I gave you for dealing with anxiety was about setting boundaries. So this week, we're going to take it a little step further and talking about setting your boundaries and what we need to do to be able to make sure we can enforce them. It's one thing to say you set a boundary. What are you going to do if someone chooses to cross the boundaries? So we have 4 tips. And as you can see, the first one is know your boundaries. Now that sounds really basic, but you need to know what are the issues that are worth you dealing with. If you have an issue with someone coming on your elevator, if you have an issue with someone handing you a coffee cup, someone being too close to you, someone touching you, where are your boundaries? Where are the areas that you're going to choose to enforce? It's one thing to say you're going to enforce them, but how? So in order to enforce them, the first step is you need to know where it is so that when that boundary gets crossed, we're going to go to the next steps and you'll know what that needs to be. But know your boundaries is number 1. Number 2 is be prepared. Be prepared for what you're going to say when it happens. If you're standing in the elevator and the rules in your organization or your building are that only one person per elevator and you're in the elevator and somebody jumps in, are you prepared to know what you're going to do? Are you going to say something? Are you going to get out of the elevator? Are you going to push them out? Or are you going to sit there seething going, I can't believe they did that. They're not allowed to do that. So really be prepared to know what your reaction, what your response is going to be. So know where it is and be prepared to deal with it. So part of being prepared is, of course, what are you going to say? So how you're going to phrase, get off my elevator, or excuse me as I get off the elevator, or would you mind backing up just a little bit, please? You have to be clear on what your issue is. Is the issue that the rules are that only one person is in the elevator? Is the issue that you don't want that person in the elevator? Is the issue that they're too close? What is the issue? And be clear as you communicate this. So as you can imagine, part of enforcing your boundaries is being very clear on what you're going to say if it happens. That's why we say know what the boundary is, be prepared, be clear. And then of course, what we need to be able to do is figure out at the end of this conversation, what is this going to look like? So what is the goal that you have in mind? Why are you going to enforce the boundary? So maybe you have a particular issue with people getting in your bubble, that people are within your 6 feet, your 2 meters. And that's what your boundary is. You really prefer if people stay outside of that. So if you're very clear that the boundary is, you've got to be 6 feet away from me, and I'm prepared that I'm going to say something if that happens, and I'm going to be very clear that it's about the 6-foot bubble, the end in mind is, I just want you to back up a little bit, right? So if I'm going to say, look, I'm sorry, the rules are 6 feet and you're much too close in 6 feet. This is not okay. I'm not beginning with the end in mind, because the end in mind is, I want you to back up. Or I'm getting off the elevator, or you're getting off the elevator, or we need to walk further apart. You have to be clear that that's what you're looking for. So if it is the elevator issue and someone gets on and I'm going to say, excuse me, the rules clearly state that there's only one person on the elevator and I was on here first. If you wouldn't mind waiting for the next elevator, please. And say that nicely without all sarcasm and all of that. But the goal is, you're getting off this elevator or I'm getting off this elevator. So be clear on what you want the end to be. Don't just identify that the boundary has been crossed. What do you want the resulting action to be? Enforcing boundaries is going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of on your part, because it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. People don't want to be told that they've broken a rule. They don't necessarily believe in what your boundaries are. We're friends. We can stand in the elevator. What's the big deal? I'm not comfortable with you in my elevator, or whatever it happens to be. So by looking at these 4 rules, it's going to get you prepared so that if it happens, you are already in a position to know exactly what the response is going to be and how you're going to handle it professionally and respectfully. You're hopefully not going to hurt any feelings. Nobody's going to be upset. And you're going to feel proud of yourself that you've respected your boundaries and you've enforced what's important to you. Each week, I'll be coming to you with a new video. Go ahead and subscribe. This way, you'll be able to keep on top with all the articles that keep you on the right track. Have a great week, everyone.